Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's 2 o'clock. It's time to start the next presentation, which today is a very exciting topic, and that's managing people. And so our whole focus from the Agri-Business Development Institute, who is us, and that's me, Gordon Stone, Director, down there, is that we know that people in the agribusiness sector find managing people often one of their greatest areas of frustration, but when they actually get it under control, one of their greatest areas of joy. And one of the reasons for this is because quite often when we're dealing with family members, that is potentially an area of frustration or an area of opportunity. So this presentation here is about the idea of creating a high-performing, self-managing team, which fits with our aim of the people who are involved in the programs that we run, which is creating a high-performing, self-managing, profitable, and what we also say, saleable beef or agribusiness. And the reason for that objective is really quite simple. It's to get people to think about a particular mindset about doing just that, a high-performing business. And in the agribusiness sector or the agri sector, quite often we think we're not sure how we can take that orderly approach in growing our business, or whether indeed a business-like approach is highly relevant to us. So our presentation this afternoon will be about people, and it fits, it's part of the Beef Business Mentoring Program that we run in association with Meat and Livestock Australia, Department of Agriculture in Queensland, AgForce, and also Crow Haworth. Like ourselves, they've got a stand down there in the grouping of trade displays. And why are we doing it? It's quite simple, because the sense amongst these people here is we need to take a professional approach to managing our businesses in today's marketplace. Why is that? Because our customers and people who want to invest money, time and effort in our businesses are seeking for us to be professional in what we do. Opportunities knock, as we know, in the beef industry, so we have to be professional and organised and orderly in how we run our businesses, just like people do in the outside business world. So whenever I start a presentation like this, I take us back to the first principles of managing a high-performing business, our ABDI 12 pillars of business best practice. So why should beef businesses or agribusinesses be any different to a mainstream business? That's why we take people through this orderly process. So let's just do a quick review. It's important to have a clear business vision, but most importantly, it's important to have a clear personal vision, because we want the business to work for us rather than have a sense that we're working for the business, which is often the case. Where do we make our money? We make our money when we sell a product to a customer. So why wouldn't it be that if we sell one of these animals over here, that we would aim to get more money per kilogram or more money per head, because we're still producing the same article? And what we know today is these discerning customers seeking a high value product in an emerging or orderly marketplace are looking for an opportunity to buy the best product, and for many of them, they're not even concerned about the cost. It's actually the product itself that floats their boat. That requires us to think in a certain way. And the way is we put ourselves in the customer's shoes. But we also think high-performing business. That's why we're thinking in this particular manner to do with Pillar 3, an orderly approach to thinking as a corporate might, because we have to put ourselves in the customer's shoes. We've got to think about our money, return on investment, return on equity. And for many people in the agri sector, that often comes last after production. We want to bring it first and think about why it is that we're doing what we're doing. It's a return on investment. We're here talking about people today for a very simple reason. If we're going to build a high-performing business, we can't do it all ourselves. And I've had discussions this morning with people who are saying, look, I want to take my business to another level. But the question is, how do I do that? Well, it's utilising the expertise of other people, whether it's workers, contractors or other family members who engage with the vision. Then it's about managing things in a systematic way. And that's basically the way in which we deal with that frustration around managing people. That's systems, which helps us deal with risk, the legal circumstances, and that's a big one which we'll come to in a couple of minutes. Then we think about succession and the business growth, or how we prefer to call it, business growth and transition. because we want to set our business up in a certain way that we can transition out, bring other people in, take our money out, bring other money in. The way we do that is often working with others. Then it requires us to think about sales and marketing and communication. The two things that we often find quite foreign to us in the agri sector. So let's just focus a little bit on the side of things to do with managing people that is the focus today. We've got to think of it in this logical progression, which is people set the business up in a certain way. It's the responsibility of the owners and managers to do that setup. Then it's about thinking about managing those people and managing the business in an orderly fashion, because we have, by this stage, started to think of who the people are needed for what reason in our business to do what job. That brings real clarity to our thinking. Then we can manage things in a systematic fashion. Then we can create what we call the dream team. Having the right people to get your business to the end game or the next level, whatever what we call the end in mind is. And part of what we're doing with business owners is getting them to think about where they want to take the business to from here. So let's think a little bit to get started about what the responsibilities of the owners and managers is. It's clearly a set of direction for the business. And often people actually sign up to be involved in a business that is doing a certain thing. So we think that people work for money often, and they do. But often it's the higher level things, which is I'm excited, as people are in our business, to be helping people on the land or in the agri-food sector to actually build a high-performing business. We're keen on that. And we want to get paid, of course, but there's a higher purpose. Creating the system, so we create a clear direction in which things are going to go. So the people that we're working with, including customers and so on, actually walk on the roadmap with us to the future. So they actually sign up for this direction, and by doing those two things, often we can get the right people. Once we're clear who we need to do what, then manage the system. So these are the ideas behind the responsibility of the owners and managers to be responsible for all these things, so that everyone gets what they want, whatever those rewards might be. They might be money, they might be satisfaction, they might be return on investment, they might be a desire to be working in the beef industry or the food industry. And of course, in most of our agri-businesses, we have family members. We want them all to be on the same page. And for some people that's a frustration, and yet it is all completely possible by alignment with the vision. So our pillar number 5, which is about people, which happens to fit with pillar number 6, which is about systems, which fits with pillar number 4, which is about making the most money and making it easy to engage with our customer, which is pillar number 2, we have to think about putting the P of people in performance. So why are we doing that? It's because if we can use our people efficiently and effectively, then we make more money. They help us get to where we want to go, which is executing this organisational strategy. We need to work out what can go right and what can go wrong and manage for it accordingly, anticipate changes, respond to those changes, and ultimately this is about the financial performance. So that's what this whole concept about people is about. Understanding that they are a resource that can be used efficiently and effectively. They help us do what we need to do, and we all reap the rewards. So one of the most important things in this process, which people become frustrated with, is how do we actually manage performance effectively? And that's the bit that people find frustrating and often confronting. But that's the thing that we ultimately need to get back to, for reasons that will become apparent in a couple of minutes when I talk about the legal circumstances. So basically, what we need to do is be clear what we want, so we can give people clear feedback on what is going well and not so well. Then we also need to think about how do we get a positive response from people. And one of the reasons we often don't engage in this feedback process is because we're scared of the result. So by turning that thing around and saying, we're clear what we want, we know the people that we're dealing with, we're prepared to give them the benefit of some specificity and get a positive response from them, then we can actually set in place this orderly review process, which we're saying must be regular, not once a year. Really, it should be weekly, monthly, and done in a very orderly fashion, and done formally. Now, why is this so important? It's because in today's environment, business environment and marketplace, and of course if we've got the right people working for us, we need to understand that we've actually got legal obligations. And people tend to bury their head in the sand and say, that's all very well, but I'll deal with it another day. But the reality is that if we have a problem with our people and it gets involved in a court situation, then we find that we're up against all sorts of legal hurdles, and we find that we're wanting, or we're found to be in the wrong or negligent in what we do. It's just a reality of today's life. So that's the reason why this process is important from a legal point of view, but the more important side of it is we want to get out of it what we need to get out of it for ourselves and for our people. So if we put first things first, we've already dealt with what our responsibility as business owners is, which is clarity about where things are going, who we need, what skills and expertise, what expectations. But fundamentally, what we're after is an orderly approach. No fuss, no bother, because when we understand the strengths and weaknesses of all of our people, including ourselves, we can fit them into the places where they can work best. We've got this concept that we call highest dollar productive zone. And if you think of yourselves and you think of other people that you work with, you can look at them and go, I'm sure I can foresee and see the strengths that those people have. I can also see the weaknesses. I can see my own strengths, my own weaknesses. So what we're looking to do with this organisational chart and organisational approach is fit people where their strengths lie and address their weaknesses, which keeps them happy, helps us resolve our problems, but also keeps a harmonious work environment happening. So what's the second thing? I've already started to talk about this ideal chart of all the jobs that need to be done in our business. Who's going to do them? And it might be each individual person does several jobs. Those things all need to be fitted together into that organisational chart. Clarity about who does what they're responsible for, what they sign up for. Then there needs to be that regular engagement that we've started to talk about as well. So we have clear expectations. They find out if they're doing well or not so well. We find if we're doing well or not so well as well. And then this formality gives us the capability to be clear about what our responsibilities are, where the risk lies, and we can actually mitigate some of our business risk. And we've got clear business outcomes that we're seeking. Only can be managed as a result of having orderly systems. So one of the things that I wanted to bring to your attention is that when we're thinking about managing performance, there are actually two axes, whatever you call it. There's the ability of the people and also their motivation. They're the two things that we need to be very aware of when we're managing people. And so people who've got high ability are often solid performers. People who've got low ability, probably because we actually haven't chosen the right people to do the right job, need effort to help them get back on track if they've got the capacity to get back on track. If they've got the motivation, we actually need to utilise them as well as we possibly can. When they're not being utilised well, we find real problems starting to emerge. So I'm not going to go into the detail, but it's important for us to understand that those are some of the important considerations. One of the other considerations in all of this is how do people behave under certain circumstances. We have, if we use the extended disc profiling system which we use, there are, broadly speaking, and this is all about shades of grey rather than the black and white I'm trying to explain to you at the moment, 4 different categories of people. We have the dominant personalities who tend to be those big picture thinkers who don't worry about the detail. And you can see some of this in here. Independent thinkers, they're prepared to take risk. They see the big picture, they see the big goals, but they don't like to be tied down through routine. The influential people, who you see at parties, who are the life and soul of the party. They love to be out there working with other people, lots of communication, lots of engagement, but they don't really like to nail down the absolute details. But they're really good if part of what we're trying to do with our customers is to engage with our customers, influence change, link in with the dominant people who see the big picture. Then we've got the people who are quite steady in what they do. And without being disrespectful to accountants and people in the legal profession and so on, they are the people who actually make stuff work. Because they like a clearly defined role. They like things to be predictable and risk-free. They like to relate to other people with other expertise, being part of a team. So they are the ones that help make those cogs work. And they're linked with the conscientious people, who are even more conscientious and like stuff to happen. They're prepared to sign up to make it all work. They work independently, they're organised, but they do like time to make decisions. So you can automatically see that potentially a person like that may be in conflict with a person like that who says, I want this job done tomorrow. And they will be saying, actually, I need a week to do it. But the benefit of understanding this stuff is in a family environment or a work environment, if you've got different people with different skills like these, you fit them together into a package and you've got this well-oiled dream team that we're talking about. Then we've got to think about some of these marginal people, because what we've been leading you through right now is understanding what you need, then looking at the people you need, then looking at the characteristics of the people you need. And when you get to the point where you find that there are people who are not fitting the bill, then there's actually an orderly way in which to manage them. And that's because of all the risk that we were talking about earlier. And so there are these kind of processes that you need to go through, which I won't necessarily cover off, but there is an orderly approach. And that's the bit that we often find confronting if we're managing people. But if we do know that there's a recipe for how to manage them, and it goes broadly speaking like that, then it will actually help us understand that there is a system by which we can manage problems and resolve them. So one of the things we've done on this is to give you access to some resources, and there's a website called peopleinaagriculture.com.au which has got lots of good stuff. Okay, just a couple of points, because I've talked about the importance of giving people feedback, because by now we're clear what we want them to do, that we've got the right people. But we need to have an orderly feedback process. And here we have some of our golden rules. And so we're ultimately not wanting to make it about the people, we're wanting to make it about the process. Okay, look, ladies and gentlemen, that draws this presentation to a close. I'm happy to take a few questions, but what I really wanted to do is to create some context for why we do these sort of presentations. We have a responsibility to our partners, Meat Livestock Australia, AgForce, Department of Agriculture in Queensland, Cohort, and of course our company, to deliver these business development and business management programs. We have a series of webinars which give you free updates on all of these topics. We have a series of one-day workshops, and we've got a longer-term program that a lot of people in the beef industry are involved in simply because they want to change their business. They understand that it takes time to change, and that's our job, is to take them through that change and transition process. So here are some contacts. This is me. My name's Gordon Stone. That's my phone number. That's an email address to find us, a website to find us. And basically, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. So thank you very much for your attendance today. I hope that's been of some assistance to help you think about managing people. And if you're a person who is being managed, to understand some of the golden rules by which that can be done. So thank you all.